Hello everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my September show and tell. I'm going to stop making comments at the beginning of every one of these talking about how fast the month goes because I think it's just that I'm getting old. I'm getting old and time is just going really quick because I haven't had a slow month in a real long time, so I feel like that's probably what that's all about. Anyways, if you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are new to show and tells, these are basically my monthly favorites where I show and talk about all the things that I have enjoyed over the past month. So I like to get these up early in the following month. So I'm actually filming this in the first couple of days of October and this will be up on my channel ASAP, but let's dive into it. So I actually have a bazillion notes on some YouTube favorites I want to talk about, so I'm just going to dive in. First of all, totally non-tarot related, but a channel that I have been obsessed with for the last couple of months, honestly, is a totally unrelated channel. I stumbled on them quite by accident, one of those YouTube recommended kind of things, and it is a channel called Squirmy and Grubs. Now, Squirmy and Grubs is a channel about a interabled couple, but what actually really connected with me was the way that they interact with one another is so comfortable and funny and familiar in a way to me. They remind me a lot of how Peggy and I interact with each other, and they just charmed me from the very first video I watched. And next thing you know, I am binge watching all of their videos. Literally, when one of their videos comes up in my subscription feeds, I literally just drop everything and that's the very next video that I watch. I enjoy them so much. So if that sounds interesting to you or if you just want to check it out, I will link, I think it's up there, but I can't remember if the screen is flipped. Anyways, I will link up top in the cards and in the description box below, or one or the other. I'll put a link to their channel, but they are fabulous. They are fun. I've learned a lot watching them, but that's not why I watch them. I just think they are fabulous in every possible way. They also recently got married, and it was just, anyways, I'm all about that channel. Everybody I've talked to, I feel like I've been talking about them, but anyways, go check it out. For sure. I also want to talk about there's two videos actually that Danny of Danny Mystic put up that are totally favorites. First thing, she did a video on inner child spread. So she did this really cool inner child spread. And I feel like every time Danny does a video about a spread, I end up putting it in my like sort of permanent, yeah, here it is right here. Danny's inner child spread. I end up keeping a record of it because she just creates these really meaty, substantial spreads. The last one of hers that she did a video on that I remember keeping was a shadow work spread. Deep dive into shadow. Oh, it's right here. No. Deep dive into shadow. And it's quite a comprehensive spread. So check that out on her channel too. But if you look up any of the spreads that Danny does on her channel, they're usually really meaty and in-depth. And I love playing with spreads like that. So the inner child one is super good. Go check it out. And even more exciting, I can't list the deck as a favorite because I don't have it yet, but it's coming, I believe, this month for me to share with you guys as in a walkthrough, is Danny's deck that she's been working on for I think almost 2 years now, the Mystic Masters, maybe about a year, but I think a little longer. So her Mystic Masters Tarot is finished. She has ordered her like sample decks to check quality and all that kind of stuff, and she has pre-orders open right now. That is a favorite. She did a full walkthrough of the actual deck on her channel recently, so that is definitely a YouTube favorite this month. And if you want to dive even deeper into the artwork, she also has done individual videos on each of the suits and the majors, showing the paintings themselves. So not once they're cropped in the cards, but actually the paintings, which I think is so cool to see what she's done. And if you don't know, the Mystic Masters Tarot is a deck of all based on etchings from the 17th and 18th centuries. 16th and 17th or 17th and 18th. You guys, history, not my strong suit, but really cool stuff. And the amount of time and effort she put into picking the right etching to go with the meaning of the card, that's a whole thing that I'm probably going to be diving more into when I do my walkthrough. But she has those etchings, she's added color and texture and titles, and it's, you guys, it's so beautiful. So anyways, that walkthrough is totally a favorite. Also, Danny and Dustin of Modern Metaphysicae and I all did another episode of 3 Fat Readers. If you are not subscribed to our collaborative, what was I going to call it just then? Our collaborative channel, 3 Fat Readers, please do. There is always a link to 3 Fat Readers in the description box down below. We try to get together about once a month to do a live stream, and we have a really exciting couple of months planned for you guys, so definitely be sure and be subscribed for that. But we did one this past month on the Ethereal Visions Tarot. It is the first in a new series we are launching, basically 3 Fat Readers approved decks. There are a very select few decks that the 3 of us can all agree on and that we all enjoy. And so we did our first review of one of those decks, the Ethereal Visions Tarot, just this past month, and it was a lot of fun to do that. So we're definitely going to be doing that again in the future. So keep an eye out for those. We've got a few other decks that we have in common that we'll definitely be talking about. And if you don't know, that channel started because we all had and were loving the Game of Thrones tarot and enjoying watching and gossiping together about the Game of Thrones show. So that's how we got started, actually. This is kind of a fun throwback to what brought us together initially, was that one deck we all had in common. So that's super fun. I have so many things I want to talk about. Oh, I really enjoyed Dawn Michelle's Decks for Autumn video. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Dawn Michelle's videos are always fantastic. She puts a lot of time and effort into them, and I really enjoyed hearing about her autumn decks. And she does a lot of like seasonal rotation of her collection as it is, so it's super fun to listen to that. And I similarly, or I guess along the same lines, Dana of the Shadow Moon Witch also did a video about her fall decks. And I don't know why, but I just really enjoy those sort of seasonal deck videos. I really enjoy that. I try to, no, I don't even try. Let me back up. In October, I tend to work with seasonally appropriate decks, and the rest of the year, for the most part, it's kind of hit or miss what I work with. I do a lot of random selection for what I'm going to work with, or I pull in things that are like new to my collection, and that keeps me pretty busy. But I really admire people who rotate their decks and work with them in that seasonal way, or like they pull their autumn decks and whatever. I certainly have decks I associate with different seasons, and I tend to reach for more in certain seasons, but it's way loosey-goosey compared to what like Dana and Dawn were talking about, and so I just eat up those videos. Also, have you guys noticed my hot pink chair? And also the fact that now that I'm filming this video sitting, I just can't stop rotating and fidgeting? That's the thing. I think, is that it for all my YouTube favorites? Yes, Danny Smith. Yeah, I got to everything. I'm sure there's other things. I've been watching a ton of YouTube. There's been some new channels I've discovered. I just can't remember the names right now, but I will try to remember to mention more of those in October. Please, if you are watching this, this is one of the categories that I love hearing about from other people because it's a great way to discover new channels, new content. I don't care if it's tarot related or not. If you have a new channel or a channel new to you that you've been really enjoying, or a particular video that someone made that you really enjoyed, tell us about it in the comments down below, because I really love discovering new content, and I keep myself pretty busy, so I don't have as much time as I used to sort of browse for new channels. So I tend to hear about things through word of mouth. So definitely, if you know something awesome and new, or new to you, or something you've just been enjoying, let me know down below. Don't assume I've seen it, because I might not have. There's a real good chance. So let me know down below. That'd be awesome. Magic, herbs, and crystals. So I did do some cool stuff this month, some of which I will be sharing with you, well, I guess in September. I did do some cool stuff in September, some of which I will be sharing with you in October, but a lot of my spiritual and magical practice lately has been intensely personal, and I think that's okay. I feel like my practice definitely ebbs and flows, and sometimes I'm more private with my practices than other times, and this is definitely one of those more I want to say almost cauldron-y sort of times in my practice where I feel like I'm going kind of deep into the belly of things, and it's been really powerful and good, but I'm not quite in a place where I'm ready to talk about a whole lot of it just yet. That may or may not change. I'll definitely keep you guys posted if it does change, but for now, just know that I've been doing some really great magical, spiritual stuff lately. I've been really getting a lot out of my spiritual practice lately, and in a lot of ways I've sort of kind of come back home to some things about my spiritual practice that really nourish me, and that's been really good. I mean, at the end of the day, the more spiritual side of my practice, other than like sort of some surface layers that I have shared with you guys, it's always tended to go into those deep places in a really private way, to the point where I don't even really share a lot of it with my friends. I just keep a lot of it for myself. So that's just a thing. I'm cool with it. It is the way it is. But I will say, did I mention this I probably mentioned this last month, but you guys, this body acceptance oil that I made for the Walking the Self-Worth Path series, I have been loving this, and this bottle is still super full for 2 reasons. Partly because I keep topping it up with a little bit of extra coconut oil to keep this rollerball one full, because I've been really enjoying using this, and oh my gosh, it literally smells just as good. I keep putting it on the back of my hands. I don't know why. But mind you, I guess it's good to moisturize the back of your hands, right? But it's just, I don't know if you can tell how like hydrated and beautiful. It's so lovely. I love looking at it. I love playing with it. I don't know why it's so hypnotic, but it is. I actually haven't felt like I've wanted or needed to make another oil since I've made this one, which is funny, but it just feels like it covers so much ground for me in my practice, and it's so dang pretty. If I ever run out of jasmine buds, I'm gonna need to order some more because I love having jasmine buds in my oils. This is so gorgeous. Okay, I'm gonna stop playing with it now. Body and beauty stuff. So 2 things, hold on. Still loving my I guess I share it, our soda stream. It's amazing. I'm currently drinking fake Dr. Pepper. It's delicious. I think it's called Dr. something, but it's the soda stream version. Anyways, 2 things I've been loving. This is my whole one. I actually have one that's almost gone now, but this is actually a Lush bubble bath bar from last year's Christmas collection. Their stuff lasts so well and smells so dang good, but this is their figs and honey bubble bath bar. I don't know why, but more and more over the last probably 5 years or so, I have been loving bubble bath bars, probably more than bath bombs. Bath bombs are exciting because you put them in the water and then they fizz and such, but I feel like I get so many more uses out of a bubble bath bar because what I like to do, and you'll actually see this in action next month because I use this on a video, is I like to put a chunk of it, or the whole thing even, into like a little metal sieve, and I'll put that under my bath water or under the running bath water so that the water runs over it and like kind of pulls off the suds and the soaps and stuff. And when I've got enough sudsiness happening in my water, I'll put this away on a tray to dry, and then I can just use it again the next time, which is super awesome. But this one smells so good. It has gold glitter in it, but the glitters just makes the bubbles kind of sparkly. My dogs want to get in. I locked them out for this video. They're not having it. Anyways, made the soapy bubbles kind of glittery, but didn't really make me glittery. It was really moisturizing. It smells really, really good. Definitely a favorite. Also, sad news. I heard, I don't know if it's true. I haven't really looked up to see if it's confirmed, but there was some talk about maybe Lush Canada going away. Y'all, I will be heartbroken. I love Lush so much. I'm such a bath fiend. If they go away from Canada, I'm going to be real sad. It's fine. I'll buy online, but there's nothing like going into the Lush store and smelling things in person, which of course I haven't been able to do since Corona anyways, which probably explains why they might be in trouble, unfortunately. But I miss that experience, and it's one of the things I'm most looking forward to once we're no longer having to social distance as much, and once things like that are a lot more sanitary and safe. But for now, I'm just really missing them, and I hope they stay put. Even if they just stay put in Canada so that I can order online from a Canadian Lush, that would be nice, so that I don't have to order stuff from the UK, because then it would take forever and be expensive. And okay, well, this just took a downward turn. In other news, I have actually done makeup a couple of times this month, but both times I reached for my Franken palette. So this is a Tarte just empty magnetic palette, and in this I actually have I think I've shown this before, but these are all the square pans you see in here are Makeup Geek eyeshadows, and I love them. I picked all of these colors myself, so I actually have a set of sort of neutral browns here with some a white and another blending color here, and then I have sort of my warm browns and my warm browns down here. I have the greens, so if you've seen me in greens, there's this set, and I have a set in an e.l.f. palette that I've used. This one I actually haven't used super recently. And then I have a set of sort of peachy, really warm shades, and then I have all my sort of plums and purples over on this side. But what's nice about this is that I feel like there's every kind of color combination I typically want to put on my eyes. So this is like a no-fail palette, and all the quality of the shadows in here is really good. There's a couple random shadows in here. So these smaller pans are actually, so these bigger pans are Makeup Geek, and these smaller pans like this one here are actually Viseart eyeshadows that I got some time ago, and they're still performing really, really well. And a couple of other random ones, like this color here is like a peach color from the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette that was the only shade I kept out of that palette when I got rid of it. And then this color here is actually from a, it was like a Cover FX palette. I don't know if that shows up. Some of you probably don't care, but it's like a kind of like a lavender duochrome kind of highlighter shade. I don't know, but I don't know if it even shows. I'm really bad at this because I don't do makeup videos. But anyway, This is the one I've been reaching for when I've been doing my makeup lately, and I love this magnetic palette. I think you can still get these, but it's great to put in like single eyeshadows or to put your own kind of combinations together, or if you depot shadows from like bigger palettes. Because a lot of times when I get rid of a palette, I usually have a couple shades I want to try and keep. So if I'm rehoming the entire palette, then I'll just do that. But if it's time for it to go, I'll try to salvage 1 or 2 of my favorite shades and keep them. So this is great for that. But I've shown this before. I love this. I don't really have any new makeup coming into my life right now because I have so much that I love and enjoy already. But anyway, that I've been loving. It was a really loud vehicle. The dogs gave up. They stopped scratching on the door. They're learning. I just need to have a now filming like door hanger that has like treats on it or something. That'd be really smart. So TV and movies. So let's see. We rewatched all of Lucifer. I don't know if I talked about that in August. I guess I could check. Did I talk about Lucifer in August? Probably. Yeah, I did. So we rewatched all of Lucifer so that we could watch the newest season, which we have now watched. It's not actually the full season that's out. It's like half the season that's out. And I'm real excited because there's a second half of the season that's going to be out, I think, next spring, if I'm remembering right. And then they are planning is it a 7th or a 6th? Whatever. They're planning a final season with shorter, less episodes to like officially wrap up the series. So it will actually be wrapped up. It won't just be like randomly canceled without closure. So that's good. I don't know if it's going to be good closure. We'll find out. They say it's going to be. I guess we'll see. But I've been really, really enjoying it. So that's super fun. Still enjoying She-Ra. That show is so dang like queer and like gender inclusive. And it's just, I'm loving it. Every Saturday, loving it. And I watched Maleficent, Mistress of Darkness. Did I write it down? Mistress of Evil. I watched that, and I watched the live action Dumbo, which was cute. I don't think I'll watch it again. Maleficent, though, I would definitely watch that again. I like both of them. This is the second one. I love them. And, I should have probably put this in YouTube favorites, but it's kind of a music favorite. I stumbled on a video on YouTube. It was a cover of In the Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan, but it's performed by Lucy Thomas Music. I'll try to remember to have a link to it down below. It was so good. It was so good. So I put that in my TV and movie section, but it's a YouTube video. So check that out. Food and beverages. Let's see. So in September, the eldest man-child and his girlfriend and us all went out with the youngest man-child, and Peggy and I all went out to a fancy sushi place, which was amazing. It was the first time we'd eaten out at a restaurant since all of this stuff. They were doing a really good job with sanitation and with distancing at the tables, and it was just really, really nice. It was sort of in the first half of the month, and they even had, instead of menus, they had just like a QR code, so you could go to their online website and look at the menu there. So that worked out really good. The most amazing sushi, but specifically if you enjoy sushi, it was the salmon oshi. I wrote it down. What was it? Yeah, it was the salmon oshi. That is my absolute favorite. It's like a cube of like pressed rice, and then it's some kind of like salmon that's been seared, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then there's like a little jalapeno, tiny little pepper, tiny little baby jalapeno slice on it. It is so good. It is so good. And I've been obsessed with the Starbucks pumpkin spice frappuccino. I have been drinking that and only that every single time we go to Starbucks since I had my first one. And I was a little nervous the first time because I read online that it was going to taste more like pumpkin pie and less like spices, but I find it kind of almost the reverse. I don't like pumpkin pie. At least I don't like eating it, but I love pumpkin spice lattes. I mean, let me back up. I don't love pumpkin spice lattes. I enjoy the spice part of pumpkin spice lattes, but they can sometimes be a little pumpkin-y for me, so I'll end up having a couple, and then I'll be done, and I'll be back to cinnamon dolce latte or some other drink. But the pumpkin spice frappuccinos have just been like creamy and sweet and delicious and so good. I had like 4 of them in September. I don't know how long we're going to have that drink for, because I'm assuming it's going to switch out for something more holiday when we move into the holiday season, but I'm going to enjoy them while they last. They are delicious. And then I have a few random things to talk about that are not tarot book fun related. Stickers. Apparently it was a very stickery September month for me. So I got these really cute, these are handmade for me. I did a tarot trade with somebody and she made these really sweet unicorn stickers that I haven't been able to bring myself to use. They're just living in my traveler's notebook, and they probably will continue to, but they literally look like little oracle cards. Like this one says visionary. I'll try to get the glare off of it. This one says, oh, I'm throwing them. This one says beauty. And they remind me of the last unicorn a little bit, not entirely. And then this one was, oh, that was visionary, that was beauty. And this one doesn't have a name on it, but it reminds me totally of the Six of Wands. Super cute. So I got those. Super favorite. I don't know why, just stickers. And I've already used some, so I'm going to show you the ones that I haven't used yet. I talked about these during my September Witches Roots unboxing, I think. But Zara, Kitten Chops, who is the creator of the Playful Heart Tarot, has started making stickers. And she sent me some of her sticker sheets. These are so cute. These are paper stickers for journaling. They are so adorable. So they obviously remind me of the characters in the Playful Heart Tarot, but they're so dang cute, and they're tarot related in a lot of them. Like this one says there's a daily card one in here. There's an Ace of Swords. There's all the aces, I should say. And then there's on one of these, yeah, here it is. It's about my growing deck collection. New day, new deck wish list fairy. This is so cute. Look at this. Look at these. So I think she's selling them on her website now, and I am loving how cute they are. And her illustrations are just the sweetest. Like, come on. How do you not love those? And I've already used up like almost a full sheet. I think I've got like part of a sheet. Yeah, like this is all I've got left of my first sheet because I've been putting them in my journal. And they're great when I have spots like in my daily tarot journal, which you guys know I keep in here. I'll show you an example if I can find one that's not too personal. There we go. So like for example, sometimes I'll only have like a few notes each day on my cards, or like I'll have a blank spot. So here's one of the peaches that I just threw there. Or like in my weekly planner section, I'll have like just pages that I didn't quite fill up, or like, yeah, here's another good example where I had like some notes about things I was going to do, and then I put that one there. So yeah, just like, they're just fun to pop in different spots, and I just keep them in my traveler's notebook. I've trimmed the sheets a little bit tighter into the stickers than they were originally, because I'm trying not to bend them too much, but I'm keeping them in the front pocket here of my traveler's notebook. So that's been really nice. Love those. And the other random thing I'm obsessed with are these friction pens. So I've been using fountain pens with my traveler's notebook the entire time I've had it. The problem is that I constantly make mistakes, or like in my planning section, I'm constantly having to move things around. Like I have a YouTube planner, and I'll plan a video for one day, and then I'll end up moving it because I'll need to do something else. And I've just found that I need to constantly white out or cover up spots. So these friction pens have been amazing, and I found out about them, I can't remember where originally, but there's the dog trying again. But Peggy actually had a couple. It's also a very loud vehicle. Peggy actually had a couple that she was using for fabric, because you can actually you can use these on spots that aren't visible on fabric. But these are basically gel ink pens that have these like little plastic nubbies on them. And when you rub wherever you've just written, here, I'll show you. I'll find like a blank spot here. So like, this is the purple one. So purple, I scribbled like that. And it's not a proper eraser. Your friction creates heat. And then, I don't know if you can see that. And then it just makes it go away, because they are basically sensitive to heat. So on fabric, Peggy's been enjoying it because of course she can mark her fabric, and then when she hits it with the iron, the line goes away. So same thing for my planning, which has been really great and has made my planning, I mean, if it's any indication, this is what it looks like when it's less messy, but it's like, my planning tends to be messy. So these are the ones that have caps on them that we had originally. And then I found that you can get these clicker style, and the clicker style come in like sets, and the little nubby is right here, so I don't have to like move the cap in order to use the little nubby bit, and they come in different colors. So I have been enjoying these. I had to share them because they're super fun, and I think these ones here, these clicker style, are also refillable, so you can actually buy refills for these, which means less waste, which is awesome. So that's it for random. I lost my page for all of my good stuff. Oh yeah, here we go. So memories, then we'll talk books, and then I'm going to flip the camera down and we'll talk about decks. So there are two things that I wanted to mention. So Peggy and I live in the Vancouver area of British Columbia in Canada, as some of you guys know. And we had this whole bout of a bunch of wildfire smoke that was coming in, some of which was coming in from the local wildfires that we get in the greater province area of BC. Well, we always have some in wildfire season, I guess, late summer. But obviously also most of it came in actually from the Portland area fires and the California area fires, and our air quality got super, super bad, so we had to stay in for a little bit. It was way better, and obviously we were way safer than people closer to the fires, but I definitely had to mention it because it certainly changed our way of life, and we are so far from it that I can't even imagine what it was like for those people who were living a lot closer to the fires. Really scary, and it just kind of brings things into focus when you go through things like that. You're like, okay, so we're social distancing because of everything going on in the world health-wise, and now there's this other layer, and it just kind of makes you realize that people go through experiences that are so, so hard, and it's bigger than the day-to-day, like, annoying things about life. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I just put things into perspective. And then while we were dealing with all of that, air quality stuff from the smoke, literally like a mile, maybe not even that far, from where our eldest man-child and his girlfriend live, a pier caught fire. And as far as I know, is on some level is finally taken care of. But this fire there was these creosote-soaked pilings, and the fire was there. So because of all the chemicals involved, it was a fire that wouldn't go out. And it was kind of scary, and it spread really rapidly at first. Our son and his girlfriend came and stayed with us for like a day, and then they stayed with other family for the rest of the time. And it was just a whole fire drama for like a good couple of weeks. And it just, again, it's like, gosh, like, what do you do? And I felt bad because when we'd all gone to sushi, that was like the weekend before we'd all gone to sushi together, we were jokingly talking about like what we would keep in if there was a fire. Like, I was talking about how I'd want to keep all my decks, and then we were talking about that wouldn't be practical, and we were having these kind of conversations at dinner or at lunch, and then to have the very next weekend have them actually packing a bag to see what they needed to save just in case the fire continued to spread in their direction. It was just, whoa. Like I said, put things in perspective for sure, and that was probably the biggest like thing that happened that sort of semi-tangentially affected us in September, so I thought that was worth mentioning. And Peggy had dental work done, so she went in for an entire day. Half of her face was all swollen up. That's been fun times. So we have been keeping an eye on her. She's doing good. She's doing really good. She's very stoic, that one. But the first day when she came home was all loopy and drugged up. That was not fun times. That was not fun times. We discovered that when drugged up from the dentist, Peggy can be very stubborn and bratty. So that was really interesting. We navigated that just fine. And she's basically normal now. She's got a little swelling, but she's basically normal now. That was fun times. We didn't have a lot of fun memories in September. It was like, oh, there were fires and Peggy went to the dentist. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got, guys. That's it. I've just been doing my thing. Making videos, doing readings, all that kind of stuff. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this in my YouTube favorites. I don't think I did. I've also been on my second channel, Tarot with Lisa is what it's currently called. It's named to be determined. I may change it at some point, who knows. But that channel is also always linked in the description box down below, and I've been doing more of the spontaneous live stream reading events. So I'll just be in a mood, and I'll go online, and I'll go live, and I'll do readings for people. So I just do that when the mood strikes, when the energy's good, when I have a couple minutes to be on for a bit, and that's been really fun. So definitely worth mentioning that. Let's talk about books. Finally we're going to talk about books. So in September, I received this 365 Gentle Reminders book. This is actually a Liminal 11 publishing book, and this caught my attention because it is basically like, do you remember daily devotionals? Maybe only those of us with like more of a Christian background remember these, but they were really common. This is basically a daily sort of positive self-worth, self-care message. So for example, on the day I'm filming this, it is Saturday, October 3rd, and today's message is self-care is not selfish. And yesterday's message was you are capable. And they've got these really sweet illustrations, and I just like keeping this next to my reading table, and I just check whatever the current day's message is, and it's so sweet and nurturing, and I love things like this. Like, look at this. You are enough. I love having things like this close at hand, just as part of my regular ongoing self-care. As somebody who's had to struggle a lot to get to a place where I see myself as valuable and worthy, little things like this, little reminders, are just a really nice like booster to my practice. It just made me feel really good. So definitely wanted to mention that. I also finally finished Home Remembers Me. It's hard to see the title, and I've totally spilled water on this because I've taken it in the bath with me and all kinds of things. But yeah, Home Remembers Me by M. Claire. So it says on the back, I know that these words may open you shamelessly. For the surprise element, I apologize, but not for the response. Never. For what it is that will be exposed to the light, there is that second before a second, just before you cover and run, when you hear the lightning of truth crackling through your skies to find you again, because life wants you back. I know that these words may open you shamelessly. So this is really beautiful. It is basically a book of poetry. I have mentioned it before. It does use a fair amount of like speak about God or about the divine, but it never feels dogmatic, and it never feels like it's only looking at the idea of God or the divine through one particular lens, which I really appreciate, because then I can obviously insert my own beliefs into that empty space that is left for me. This is really, really lovely, and it has those like kind of like torn edge pages, but this is really soothing and comforting. It's definitely the kind of book that I would reach for when I feel like I need to feel connection with something greater than myself and a reminder that I'm not alone in the world. So it definitely has that kind of a feel to it, a very sort of nurturing, faith-based sort of feel to it, without feeling dogmatic or preachy in any way. It's just very like kind of remember who you are and remember that there is more than just you. It's kind of got that sort of a feel throughout. I'm trying to remember any specific examples, but I would just recommend you take a peek at it if something like that might catch your attention. If you are super triggered, which I totally understand, if you're super triggered or if it makes you uncomfortable to read God in things, this may not feel quite right for you. But again, I felt like it was very non-dogmatic and very open in the way that it expressed the concept of divinity here and there throughout the poems, and it didn't feel like it was in every single one, but there was definitely this element of being part of something greater, which I really enjoyed. I also, in September, did finish Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This is really, really good, and it's definitely written in this very approachable way. It felt like I was reading a fairy tale or fairy tales, and the stories are actually separated with header pages, which was really nice, and I felt like I actually got the meaning of the stories by the way it was written. I have a feeling that if it was written a little bit more... If it tried too hard to be precise in how it expressed the stories, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. I don't think I would have finished it in that case. But this actually was very palatable. It was easy to read. It was easy to digest. And I felt like the stories actually stuck with me more because the dialogue that is in here is meant, I think, to give it more of that story-like feel. And it worked really well. So really beautiful. Would definitely recommend if you're curious about the Norse mythology in general, or if you're working with the runes, because it does add other layers of context to things like that. And as you guys know, I was doing the rune studies, have been doing the rune studies with Don Michelle. We're just in the wrapping up phase of that, with our last live stream to come soon. So this was just a really great thing to add to that practice, and I really had a lot of fun with it. I also read Beneath the Moon by Yoshi Yoshitani in September. This was a gift sent to me by a subscriber that I'm still so grateful and was so blown away by. I mentioned this last month, I think. Did I mention that? Yeah, I must have. Can't remember. Very blown away by this. This was so special. It really made my day. I love fairy tales, and she had sent me the Tarot of the Divine, and this is a book of stories that accompanies that deck. It doesn't have to accompany that deck, but it adds so much context. And the stories in here are like basically 1 page per story. I don't think there's ever an exception. Yeah, it's like 1 page per story, and you get this beautiful like full color illustration and then a single page story, which makes this very digestible. It's easy to just read a story at night before you go to bed, or otherwise incorporate it into some kind of a ritual, like read one when you get home from work or whatever. Just, it's so easy to do that because the stories are so easy and quick to read. I loved this. They're very much just like amuse-bouche, right? They're just like a little taste of the story or of that particular mythology, but it gives you enough to sort of whet your appetite, and I love that. And finally, I meant to actually talk about this in my August show and tell, and I totally forgot. This is Brian Froud's The Runes of Elfland, written by Ari Burke. And at the bottom it says, from the creator of the best-selling Good Fairies, Bad Fairies, because of course that is what Brian Froud is known for. I actually have two Brian Froud Oracle decks, the Fairies Oracle and the Heart of Fairy Oracle. The Heart of Fairy Oracle is kind of like on and off my to be traded or sold list. I haven't decided ultimately, but I haven't been able to part with it yet, so that must be saying something. So for now I'm still holding on to it, but I really love his artwork. This book I found out about from Don Michelle. Has gorgeous artwork, and for every single rune there is a section called the telling, which is like a fairy tale that has been written associated with the rune and sort of associated with the realm of fairy. And then there is the gift, and in the gift section you actually get the meaning of the rune. Again, this is from Brian Froud and Ari Burke's perspective, but it actually is really good, and I didn't find any information in here, particularly in the gift section, that didn't match up with what I was reading elsewhere about different runes, and often they gave a slightly different perspective, but it's enough that like it was exciting enough to work with that it did make me want to figure out if I could somehow turn this into like a little rune deck, like maybe scan the images and print them for myself to use or something, because every illustration has the rune in it, and then the illustration lines up with the telling or the story. There's also even something called the charm for every rune, which is like a little sort of, what would I call this? Like an invocation or a spell almost, the way it's written. Like it's written in that really lyrical way. But this is a really beautiful book. It's hardbound. This is what the actual cover looks like behind the dust jacket. And it's got like, I guess it's not metallic, it's just red. And it's got a little, look at the little fairy on the, oh, I'm going to knock over my beverage, but look at the little fairy guy on the back. So cute. This book is out of print, but it was really easy for me to find a copy on, I think I found it on Abe Books, which is where I tend to go for used books. That's where I look first these days. You may be able to also find it on like eBay or something, but it's really beautiful. And it was so much fun. This is probably my favorite rune book that I worked with during all of my rune studies. So love that. Really wanted to make sure that I mentioned it. And with all of that said, I've gotten through all of the categories except decks, so I'm going to switch the camera top down and I'm going to talk about all the decks that I worked with in September. So I will see you there. Okay, so here we are, top down. I've changed the view. Hopefully there's enough room here to show everything I want to show, but I guess we're just going to go with it. I just set up the camera real quick, so let's get started. So the first two decks that I worked with at the beginning of the month was the Osho Zen Tarot and the Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reed, and oh no, I lied, Enchanted Map. Was it Enchanted Map? I guess it was Enchanted Map. I thought it was Wisdom of the Oracle, but it may have been Enchanted Map. Yeah, I think it was. Sorry, they're both very similar decks. I actually trimmed my Enchanted Map. This was actually sitting on my trade list, and I was getting ready to rehome it, and I was like, wait, what if I trimmed it? And it did give it new life, and it did open it back up for me in a lot of ways, and I suddenly have been enjoying it more. And as you can see, I actually was working with this deck with reversals, because in the guidebook, you do get a upright and reversed meaning, and I found these messages to be really, really on point and helpful and very healing, actually. So I did shuffle in reversals during my work with this deck, and it's just been a lot of fun. So it definitely reconnected me with it. I still have to decide what colors I'm going to edge it in, because it was before this like sort of parchment border on both sides, the front and the backs, and so it was edged previously in like that parchmenty kind of color. But anyway, I don't know why I paired these two specifically. I think I just really wanted to work with them both, and oftentimes that's exactly where my pairings come from. But they just worked really, really well together. I found that the messages bounced off of each other really, really well. And I had no problem. Interestingly, I don't work with the Osho Zen with reversals, but I was working with the Enchanted Map with reversals. And I don't know why. It really, really worked. Mind you, I don't have the same sort of fussiness in the sense that I don't feel like the art has to go together for me to enjoy working with two decks together. Look at all these reversals all together. Clumped up reversals, guys. But I tend to work with this deck one card at a time, whereas I tend to work with Osho Zen multiple cards at a time. So I was drawing like around 3 to 4 cards a day from my Osho Zen, and then just a single energy-based card from the Enchanted Map, and it just was really, really working for me. But again, both decks I feel like have very clear messages that I have no problem working with, and this was actually one of the first mass market decks, Oracle decks that I remember really connecting with and enjoying working with. And there is very much like a healing vibe to this deck and a personal growth vibe to this deck that's really cool. Now this deck is based on, I believe, a book by the same name called the Map, I think it might be called. Maybe not even just the Enchanted Map, it might be. And the cover of the book looks a lot like this guidebook by Colette Baron Reid. I've never felt like I wanted or needed to read that book, but I've really certainly, oh look, these are that's where that comes from. I really do enjoy the messages and the way that they're written in this Oracle deck. Look at that. It's so interesting to me how sometimes when you look at cards one-on-one and you look at the way their colors match up or you look at the way the messages match up, it just always fascinates me how well that works. But one of the things I like about this Enchanted Map, just like with the Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reid, and these are among her earlier Oracle decks. A lot of her later stuff just hasn't resonated for me. But what I like about these is they feel like they have a very good balance. So there's light and shadow in both of those decks, even though the images look very sort of wistful, and they remind me a lot of the artwork in like the Good Tarot. Of course, that's the same artist, which is why, but this one just feels like it has a lot more balanced messages in it. Like there's more, like Dry Desert is a more shadowy card in general. And the fact that there's upright and reversed meanings that really get you into both light and shadow for every single card is also really nice. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's definitely staying in my collection now that I've sort of trimmed it and rebonded with it. But that was a lot of fun to play with. I always love, as you guys know, my Osho Zen, and in September I finally did a deep dive, very long video where I go into all of these cards and sort of how I interpret them and how I work with them. So if you haven't seen that, another loud vehicle. What is with people? Put a muffler on. Anyways, okay, sorry. Sidetracked. Okay, the next two decks that I worked with in September was Jillian Wild's Naked Heart Tarot. Oops. And the Antiquities of Magick Oracle. This was a deck that I backed on Kickstarter. I actually can't remember if I put up a walkthrough about this. I remember filming one, but then I don't remember if... No, I didn't film one. I kept meaning to, but I didn't actually film a walkthrough of this deck. This deck and I just didn't end up really getting along, but I love the Naked Heart Tarot. Oh my gosh. That traffic, though. Actually, should I put that, like, even in the video? Well, we'll see. We'll see if I keep that in or I try to edit it out. Anyways, I love, by the way, the guidebook. This is the 4th edition? Does it tell me? I always forget. There's been like 3 or 4 editions. This deck is such a good standby deck. I must say in the beginning. 3rd edition. This is the 3rd edition. I had the 2nd edition. Jillian Wild gifted me this 3rd edition so that I could share it with you guys. And I ended up rehoming actually my 2nd edition. And it was so funny because this was the first deck I was ever offered to have as for review or whatever on my channel. And I squealed like a little 5-year-old. I was ridiculous. It was so funny. Anyway, I love this deck. It's very clean. It reads really well. And I love the way that the 3rd edition guidebook is written. And yeah, anyways, love this deck. The Antiquities of Magick Oracle, it has so much potential for somebody who wants a cartomantic style deck, who wants a deck that is going to be very symbol-based, very sort of Lenormand-like in a lot of ways. And for whatever reason, this one just hasn't been landing for me, and I don't know exactly why. I do know that typically I don't tend to enjoy decks that don't have keywords when they're Oracle decks like this. And I think that's probably why, is it's just titles. But there's the reason she does this so intentionally, right? The reason that she has this deck designed that, you know what, I'm going to zoom this in just a bit so you can see the cards better. The reason that she designed the deck this way is because the whole point is that you're going to develop your own meanings for each of these symbols, right? And this first volume is traditional tarot symbols. So she's pulled these symbols from the tarot, and you can begin to sort of build a library for yourself of what each of these symbols means. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it actually works really beautifully that way. You can read it much like a Lenormand deck, and it's very snappy. I didn't have any trouble with it. I just didn't feel as excited to pull it out and work with it as I was hoping to, and that might change over time. I freaking love, though, the backings on these cards. They are probably the prettiest backings I've ever seen. And I think that in theory it should work really well with her Naked Heart Tarot, but when I had these two out for the week, I found myself just wanting to work with the Naked Heart Tarot. Maybe it's that this deck took me a little too far outside my comfort zone. Maybe it's that concept of not wanting to necessarily dive into or create my own meanings. That was a hiccup. I'm not sure. I don't know that I'm ready to rehome this deck yet. I think I want to hold on to it for a while longer and see if we find our way. But it is really beautifully produced. And the edges are gorgeous and already blackened for you. It's really, really beautiful. But yeah, I love the Naked Heart Tarot. It's such a solid reader for me, and I really enjoyed pulling this out for live readings on my second channel. It worked really well for that, and it's very like intuitive in spite of having all of that white space, which is normally something I don't gravitate to. With this deck, it really, really just works. And it's just so thoughtful with all the symbols. It seems like there's not a lot of clutter on every card, and there's not, but all the symbols you need are definitely there, and I love that about this deck. It's almost like, to me, this is what this is, in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my head, but I don't know if it makes sense out loud. All right, let me zoom this back out so I can swap out what we're looking at here. But yeah, so that was the Naked Heart Tarot by Jillian. Again, if you don't have this deck and you're even remotely drawn to it, I would definitely suggest scooping it up. To me, it's very much a pivotal part of my practice, I guess. I don't know. This really shifted how I felt about more, how do I want to word that? Like more, I don't want to say simple, but open artwork, I guess. Artwork that doesn't have as much clutter. This is probably the first deck that I really thoroughly just loved working with in that way. Antiquities of Magic. I'm excited to see where this collection goes. I'm excited to see how it works out for future editions. Quick point on the guidebook too is that there's actually a lot of message about each symbol. So she actually gives you, and this is cool how this is laid out. So for example, this is the fish. And you have an incantation. You also have the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot cards that feature this symbol. And there's a space for intuitive thoughts. And what I like about this is that this is actually, there's a few keywords. So subconscious, intuition, emotions, fertility, and luck. But there's a space for your intuitive thoughts before you turn the page. And when you turn the page, that's where you get history, an oracle message that's very detailed. But you could choose to just put your own thoughts here and then just work with that before you have to like get into depth with the history of the symbol, the message, any of that stuff. So you can kind of choose how you're going to work with it. It's a really well thought out guidebook, and it's beautifully produced. Really nice box. Like, it's nice. For some reason, I'm just not bonding to it, right? So something, I guess, to be determined still in my collection. Oh, I didn't put my Naked Heart back in its box or bag. There we go. That's better. All is right with the world again. So the next week in September, I actually worked only with a tarot deck, and I was working with Yoshi Yoshitani's Tarot of the Divine, and this deck has been such a joy to work with. Looks like I was also using some reversals with it. I actually think that happened during a live reading where I was doing a live reading event and I accidentally shuffled reversals and then I just went with it. But this isn't one I feel like I'll typically want to work with reversals. This deck, let me zoom this in again. This deck is so pretty. I have a full walkthrough up. It actually ended up being quite a lengthy walkthrough, but I wanted to look at this deck through the lens of somebody who doesn't necessarily want or need to know all of the stories. This is one of the only cards I really struggled with in the whole deck. For the most part, I find that the Rider-Waite-Smith images or meanings come through with the way the cards are depicted, even if you don't know the stories. I don't know that that's everybody's experience, but it's certainly been mine. And so, like, this is very clear to me, Eight of Cups, even if I don't know what fairy tale or story or myth this is supposed to represent. Same thing with this Five of Coins. And I talk about that in my walkthrough, but it's a very readable deck. It's tactilely a joy to work with. It's got this, like, coated linen finish that's kind of almost a little plasticky feeling on the surface, so there is some reflect, which I've heard some people have issue with. I haven't had a problem even on camera with these cards really, but I know that some people have. Still, I feel like the meanings come through with the imagery even if you don't know the stories. There's one or two exceptions to that rule, I think, but for the most part it stays pretty true. You see enough in the scene that like harkens back to Rider-Waite-Smith that I think you'd be fine even if you never read Beneath the Moon or dove deeper into the stories. But yeah, this was a lot of fun to work with, and the little guidebook that comes with it is super useful because you get just enough, like you get these little thumbnails and you get just enough to know, to look into or dive into more. Even if you don't get that Beneath the Moon book, there's the name of the story. There's also its geographic origin and its cultural origin. to the best of the author's understanding or knowledge, I guess I should say, because I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm assuming it's somewhat accurate. And then there's a meaning that ties in a little bit of the story in just a short paragraph, as well as upright and reversed keywords. And because there's upright and reversed keywords, that's probably why I shuffled reversals in, because in my own personal practice, I've been enjoying working with reversals when they're in the guidebook like that. So super fun. Loved working with this deck. I think I'll continue to reach for it again and again. It was a joy to work with. So I worked with that for an entire week, and I just didn't work with a tarot with it because I really wanted to just bond with just this deck. So that is what I worked with then. Let's zoom us back out. And then the next week in September, I worked with the Rainbow Heart Tarot. This is by Rachel Rosencoder. Oh my gosh. This is a favorite. There's no other way to express it. I love this deck so much. Thumb holes on the side of the box would be nice because I have a tendency to habitually put the lid underneath, and then once the deck is out, it's kind of hard to get it back in there. Great little white book. I haven't really felt the need to work with it too much. I definitely looked at it for some of the cards that kind of go their own way, but for the most part, this is a very Rider-Waite-Smith kind of deck. And I decided to pair with it. Oh gosh, this deck. There is something about this card size, card quality, and the coating on it that just, I don't know, it's so pleasant to touch. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a very smooth coating. I think it's a UV, not UV, what was it called? Like a gloss varnish or something? Anyway, I ended up pairing this with the Whispers of Lord Ganesh, mostly because I missed the Whispers of Lord Ganesh. I hadn't worked with it in a while, and I was really called to work with it. Artistically, these don't look anything alike, but energetically, they played very nicely together. Page of Pentacles and Nurture. So cool. Temperance and Capacity to Love. I just love Whispers of Lord Ganesh, and I fell so head over heels for Rainbow Heart Tarot. I also use this deck a ton in my live readings over on my other channel, and it just played really well for all sorts of readings, but I did a very deep dive kind of walkthrough into this deck. You can find that walkthrough on my channel. I love this card so much. But I found that, like, message-wise, these two went really well together, and I didn't have any trouble at all working with them in my personal practice. I would tend to pull 3 or 4 of these to every one of these in my daily draws, but I really enjoyed the way that they played off of each other, and I just really love both of these decks so much that I just had a lot of fun with them. Again, energetically they worked really well, but aesthetically they're very, very different, and this happens to me a lot in my practice where I'll pair things that maybe artistically don't necessarily look like they would go together, but Whispers of Lord Ganesh is one of my longtime favorite mass market oracle decks. It's very nourishing. Nourishing? What did I just say? Nourishing. It's very nourishing. It's got the chakra cards in there. I really enjoy working with this. I've reached for this deck a lot for like sort of spiritual growth kind of readings for myself and for clients for a long, long time now. So I really enjoy that. And oh my gosh, what could I possibly say about the Rainbow Heart Tarot? I love it so much. It's got this kind of like hippie sort of vibe to it, or I guess maybe the more appropriate term is boho. What's the right term? Does anybody know? But it's got that kind of like, I don't know, very comfortable in its own skin, kind of confidence. It's not a shy deck, I guess is a good way to express it. It's very comfortable with what it is. And everything's very up close, and it feels very raw, and it's very emotive. And I think I like this art style. It's very kind of cartoony, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea, but it's definitely mine. And symbolically, like, it's so well researched. I love this Ten of Swords. There's so much to read into that card, and the way that it's depicted. And I feel like there's good gender and racial representation throughout the entire deck, and I just freaking love it. And I love this Moon card, and I love the Empress card, and I love how they feel like that deep feminine wisdom in different ways, and I love that. So really, really enjoy this deck. I would be very quick to reach for this for client readings just because I feel like it's very universal in a lot of ways, but I love, 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 love it. It's definitely right up there for me with This Might Hurt and Mons Tarot among my very, very favorite decks. I'm so, so glad I got my hands on this. I love it. And I love the box. Anyways, I just love it. All right, and that brings me to, oopsies, the last week of September, at least the last week that started in September, and that was most recently to me what I've been working with, and that is the beautiful Ember and Aura Tarot by Jamie Richardson, which has been, oh my gosh, this deck has been so beautiful. This is the Awakening edition, which is the most recent edition of this deck. As I understand it, the colors are just a bit more saturated than in earlier editions. But this deck has been a stunner to read with. I am so grateful. Again, I was using reversals because there are reversed messages in the guidebook, and I was really, really enjoying working with those. And the way the guidebook is written is unique. It's beautiful. This is one of the things that I love about working with different decks is that you get all these different takes on the tarot. And can we talk about this gorgeous pink gilding? And speaking of quality, I have had one other deck ever that had a really brightly colored gilding, and it was the Beautiful Creatures Tarot that had a bright purple gilding, and that gilding chipped after my first shuffle. This gilding, I have been shuffling and shuffling this deck, including using it in live readings on my other channel, and it is just like, oh, it's beautiful. The cardstock is beautiful. It's a really beautiful deck. Okay, enough gushing. And paired with it, I actually have been working with the Plant Spirit Oracle by Dana O'Driscoll. Oh my gosh, this deck so blew me away. So this I received in a trade with Mary Grace Faroon. It was a lovely trade. I'm so excited to have this in my collection. And oh my gosh. Again, beautiful cardstock, beautiful backings, nice, thick, sturdy stock. This, if you have her Tarot of Trees, at least the edition I have is one of the smaller ones, not the most recent edition. It's a glossy cardstock. This is so beautiful. This cardstock is gorgeous. Okay, let's zoom us in. This deck, actually before I zoom us in, check out the book. I can't even get the whole thing in frame. This is like a, how many pages is this? This is like 200-page guidebook. And for every single card in here, you get keywords, you get a divination message, you get herbalism information about the plant, and you also get a recipe, something you can do tangibly to work with the energy of that plant. This book is incredible. I'm so grateful that I have this deck, if for no other reason than the book. But the deck itself is actually really stunning. And these two decks work together really, really nicely. So what I love about this deck is that you get the name of the plant really bold and prominent. That plant is very much articulated shown in the artwork, and then there's 3 keywords. I love it when decks do this, when I have a few different jumping off points. Okay, this spruce could be travel, movement, or openness, or all of the above. I love that. Staghorn sumac, cunning, trickery, and intelligence, and we have a fox there too. It's so brilliantly done. Dandelion for balance, harmony, and equality. Cannabis and the Ace of Wands, that's a cool pairing, hey? Calamus and the Hermit reversed. I have been having so much fun, and every single day that I would draw a card, I was using about 4 cards. I've been still using that morning cup spread for most of my daily draws. So I would draw 4 of these cards to represent 4 different aspects of my day, and then I would draw 1 of these and read the full entry in the guidebook about that plant. And I've learned a lot. I feel like I'm actually able to start connecting with the energy of the plants with this deck. This is probably, I'm just thinking of what else I have. This is probably my favorite plant medicine based deck as far as oracles go, and I would definitely gleefully pair this with the Herb Crafters Tarot. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot the name, but yeah, I loved working with these. And as you can tell, like art wise, they did actually work really beautifully with each other. They both have sort of a softer color palette. This one's more vivid in a way, but they have a similar style to the art, so they actually worked and played very nicely together. Look at these two together. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with these. So that is what I've been working with in September. All through October, I will be working with some of my darker, more shadowy decks. That's definitely how I roll for the month. So I will fill you in on everything I worked with at the end of October, beginning of November. So watch for that video when it comes out. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate you guys engaging with the content here. So be sure and like this video if you enjoyed this monthly show and tell. Comment down below with some of your favorite things, or if you have any other feedback about any of the things I've been talking about. And make sure and subscribe if you're new here. Click the bell to be notified of all my future videos. And remember, if you want to book a reading, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.